And welcome everybody to the Jackers YouTube channel. I am Jackers, and today I'm going to be talking all about Community and how it is one of the greatest shows of all time. So if you're watching this video, then you've obviously seen the sitcom Community. And during its 6-season run, this show managed to create something unlike any other show at the time. Its witty humor constantly brought fans back to the show, and with it recently being put on Netflix, the show is being viewed more than ever and is having an Office-like resurgence in popularity. When its first episode aired, it was met with fairly good reviews and fairly good ratings as well, due to the fact that it felt The Office. In the first couple of episodes, it was just a simple, bland comedy that kind of portrayed a comedy of that time. But once Dana Harmon got to fully put his creativity into the show, it just absolutely took off. The 7th episode comes to mind, which is called Introduction to Statistics. While there were many great moments and hilarious moments in the episodes preceding this is the first episode where it seems like the show really starts to become its own. In this episode, their creativity and key to the success of the show really becomes clear. It's Abed. The basis of the episode is centered around Jeff trying to get with his teacher and Annie throwing a Halloween party. It's a simple concept, right? Well, the genius of this show doesn't lie in the premise, but the comedic execution instead. What makes this show so funny is its ability to reference famous films and TV shows, but what they did so well, however, is that they could reference something and make an episode all about a reference, but the show never really relies on reference humor. Introduction to Statistics is a great example of this, and it all runs through Abed. The biggest laughs throughout the episode is Abed portraying Christian Bale's version of Batman. Now, little by little, Dan Harmon and the cast started to realize how they were going to succeed. Introduction to Statistics was the beginning of success, and they continued to involve Abed more and more where he shined. Now, if this casting of the show was not so perfect, there's no way they could have pulled it off. Danny Pudi, don't know how to say his name, who plays Abed, is the only reason they were able to pull off all this reference humor, because of the way he was able to perfectly bring his character Abed to life. Even when he was in the background, Danny was putting forth the maximum effort, from making odd faces to making sound effects with his mouth. He nailed everything that was needed for this role. And while the first season was a massive success, the show got some pretty negative backlash, saying that it was basically just reference humor. And this could not be any farther from the truth. Take Season 1, Episode 21, which is called Contemporary American Poultry, for example. On the surface, it seems just like a 21-minute reference to Goodfellas, which is a mafia movie from, the 80s. But on a deeper level, you realize that it's so much more than that. The reason it's funny is not because it's a reference, but because of the situation the characters are in. And it's still quality writing now, but because they are all in situations that seem like the characters could be in, and because of how the writers built up the episode, it all felt earned, and it felt like you felt rewarded. And there are many episodes like this, and they are some of the best episodes of the entire series. Community is able to differ what makes their references so great as well. They can make their references either the main plot of the story, and they can also make references a side story and not dominate the episode at all. Now, like I mentioned before, an example of the main plot is Contemporary American Poultry, and an example of a side story is in the second paintball episode. This episode comes to mind because the episode's main plot line is about the study group trying to defeat City College in paintball and save Greendale. In the beginning, it starts to seem like a reference to classical old Western films, and that seems like that would be the entire episode and just a whole reference episode, but midway through, they quickly switch to a Star Wars reference. And these references don't alter the outcome of the episode at all, but they are also an integral part of the episode, and one of the things that make it so funny. Now, one of the greatest things about this show is the on-screen chemistry between the actors. The biggest being between Don Glover, who plays Troy Barnes, and Danny Pudi, who plays Abed. But this relationship leads to many plot lines and is one of the main reasons the show is so funny. The funniest moments of the show come from these two characters, whether it be their little talk show that they have at the end of episodes, or the scenes they have in the Dreamatorium. With all these things, where what caused the success of the show, what really set Community apart from the others was episodes like Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas and the Digital Estate Planning, where the characters were animated. At first glance, you would think that this would take all the seriousness away from the show. The amazing thing was that it didn't. All these scenarios where the episode was animated all seemed logical, and it didn't take away any, legitness. Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas is able to do this because of Abed's emotional trauma from Christmas, and the Digital Estate Planning is able to do this because they have to play a retro video game to get Pierce's father. Now, all of these things combined were able to pull off a great sitcom, and one of the greatest of all time in my opinion. So to answer my original question, Community was so genius because they were able to make ordinary premises unordinary, great casting and on-screen chemistry, and creative and amazing writing. While the final season's quality seemed to dip a little, I still do think that this is one of the most underrated shows of all time and is one of my favorite shows to watch. So, thank you guys so much for viewing this episode. I hope you guys come back in the future, and I'll probably do more of these type of videos. And I really hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Peace.